はいはい、お待たせいたしました。続いてはですね、Take this panel という風になっております。こちらですね、見てわかる通りですね、カテゴリーありませんよね。で、ゲームのハードもありませんよね。そうですね、こちらゲームタイトルではございませんね。Take this panel。おおむね運動とメンタルヘルス、精神なんかに、そういうものについて、いろいろお話をしてくれる、パネルが表示される。私たちはそれを見る。すごい勉強になる。そういう感じのはずですね。はい。私ですね、さっきから何度もうめいておりますけど、英語わかりませんね。ですので、ディスコードの方で実はあちらのイベント、本家のスタッフさんの方がですね、いろいろ補足してくださるということで、もう超喜んでおりますが、もちろん皆様ともね、いろいろこういうことなんじゃないという補足やっていきたいと思いますので、よろしくお願いいたします。なお、テイクリスパネルなんですけれども、今後も何回か予定されておりますので、そちらもぜひ見ていただけたらと思います。勉強して損なし。今後のゲーム5つ見えておりますよね。こちらの画面の左端に5つ見えております。見てわかる通りなんですけれども、次はバットマンアーカムシティですが、その後はもうゴルフゾーンが待ち構えておりますね。皆様超気になっているんじゃないかと思いますが、ぜひね、そちらも楽しみにしていただければと思います。じゃあ、パネルが始まる前にですね、ちょっとだけ今回の概要の説明をさせていただきますね。できる範囲で。いきます。現在、ジャパニーズリストリームでは、RTA イベント、スピードランラグナロク2021の様子を公認で日本語ミラ配信しています。スピードランラグナロク2021は、ザ・ RPG ワルキリーズの Twitch チャンネルで行われるテイクリスを支援するためのオンラインチャリティ RTA イベントです。ザ・ RPG ワルキリーズは、RPG やスピードランが大好きな女性や女性よりのランナーが集まったグループで、自分たちのスキルやゲームへの愛をアピールするために作られました。ザ・ RPG ワルキリーズでは、年間通して複数のイベントが、チャンネルで配信されるようですね。そして今回のイベントの寄付先である Take This はゲームコミュニティにおけるメンタルヘルスに関する意識向上、教育、奉仕活動を目的とした非営利の慈善団体です。寄付と関連し、特定のゲームにはコーナー移動の変更やエンディングの選択と予定されております。各項目外に設定された目標寄付金額を達成すると行われます。また、寄付金額を表に満たしたビットによってキャラクター名選択し決定されることもあります。寄付額に対する報酬は、よく流れてきていますね。URL からご確認いただけます。こちらですね、直接の寄付はカードだったり、自分の使っているサービスだったりによってできないこともあるんですけれども、できることもあります。もちろんね。ですからぜひ一応チャレンジしてみてください。イベントは、今回は17日までですね、24時間昼夜問わず開催されておりますので、ぜひ最後までお楽しみください。もちろん自分の健康に十分注意してくださいね。というわけで、今回の概要でした。はい。 つまりね、わかりましたか？ Take this パネルというのは、寄付先の Take this のパネルというそのままの意味でございますね。寄付先についてみんなで知ることができる機会なんじゃないかな。ぜひとも勉強していきましょう。ゲームコミュニティにおけるメンタルヘルスに関する意識向上、教育、奉仕活動を目的とした非営利団体の慈善団体がお送りする、メンタルヘルス、精神、心の管理について、それが運動と結びついているか。みんなで知っていきましょう。役立てていきましょう。イェイイェイ。ビット王の進捗ですか？ちょっとお待ちください。めっちゃいい曲だ。クロノトリガーも今回あったはずですね。ここかな？そうそう。今、エクシークさん、チャット欄の方で、教えていただいてますけど、ターゲットをクリックする必要がありますね。ちょっと見るのが難しいところなんですけど。おそらく PC で見てらっしゃる方は、3つのページ、寄付ページ飛んでいただいて、配信チャンネルの場所すぐ上のターゲットからいろいろ確認できるものがありますね。はいはい。もうか。ビットをね、ちょっとお待ちください。そちらも確認します。ダットマンアカムシティはゴルフではないですね。それは間違いないと思います。
Hi everyone, I'll introduce myself. My name is Pooja. I'm a workshop consultant with
画面が切り替わりました。Take this パネルが始まる。かな？
interest and specialization is the field of health psychology. So just where that where mental and
はい、こんにちは。そうですね、ラムダ力というのが不安かもしれませんが、大丈夫ですよ。何も心配いりません。
Yep. And hi, you probably all know me, but maybe you don't see me done up in makeup. I'm Keishura, and I am here basically as a facilitator slash commentator for this panel. If Pooja needs to, ping some ideas or have like a conversation partner, I'm going to be here. And of course, if you have any questions during the panel or during Pooja's explanations, write them down in chat, and I will pick them up and ask them to Pooja at an opportune time. Well, Pooja, let's go ahead and take it away then. So we're going to be talking about mental health and exercise.
Certainly. Well, I want to talk about sedentary behavior before we get into exercise. And I just want to point out how ubiquitous it is and how economic and social changes, especially since the outset of this pandemic, it's so common for us. It's so ubiquitous for us to be in one place, and especially sitting in one place for long periods of time. And couple that with how entertaining our screens are. We can talk to people, we can certainly play games, do our work from our screens. There's no reason really, not very many compelling reasons, I'll say, to get up. And so I'd like to also point out unique challenges in the gaming community that not only are, while we're sitting, of course, we're and playing, we're not only battling other players, but we're also battling gravity the entire time. And unfortunately for us, we can't turn gravity off or lower its difficulty setting. And in a seated position, that our postural muscles are firing in order to keep our hips straight, our torsos upright, our head looking forward. And once these muscles begin to tire, our bodies will find a position in which these muscles can rest and become more efficient to continue the task at hand, which is sitting. And so overall, given these like economic, social, and then our own unique challenges of being gamers, we've become very good at extracting energy from our environment. And we can survive on, just by spending low levels of energy. And our bodies are used to just always following the path of least resistance. So the idea of getting the most effects from our actions while expending the least amount of energy. And so when we sit in a single position for more than 5 hours straight, our bodies are going to find the easiest way to keep us there while expending the least amount of energy doing so. And so what I want to talk about is the effects of that, of not changing this status quo, if you will, of continuing this pattern of sitting or not moving for hours at a time. What happens is that the body settles into a position that begins to shorten certain muscles, and by consequence, it lengthens others. And so when you eventually get up, these muscles will remain in that position, making it harder for us to switch between like sitting, bending, walking, reaching, standing. And so these are the many positions that we find our bodies and our lives force us into just by virtue of living, surviving. And so in the short term, we can find ourselves feeling more uncomfortable while transitioning into these different positions, into these different postures. But in the long term, this can lead to consistent pain, postural imbalances, injuries, or even chronic diseases. And so what I'd like to share with you next is age-related sort of changes in our health. And so this really starts to begin in our 30s, that we just have progressive loss of muscle mass, and we begin to store more fat, and our metabolism slows down. And muscle is a high metabolic tissue. It creates a lot of energy. It enables movement. It helps us to prevent falls and soaks up those extra calories rather than converting them to fat. And so I'll start with some recommendations of how much activity should we really be getting. And this is different from sedentary behavior. This is just physical activity now. The World Health Organization recommends that we accumulate approximately 150 minutes of moderate intensity physical activity throughout the week. So this is anything like jogging, gardening, cycling, any activity in which you can do while sort of maintaining a conversation. Or 75 minutes of vigorous intensity physical activity throughout the week. So vigorous activity implies anything in which you can't maintain a conversation. So perhaps you're running or doing a high intensity interval workout, these types of activities. And so I want to return now to the topic of sitting or sedentary behavior. Research shows us that independent of how much activity that we do, sitting is hazardous to our health. And so I alluded to some chronic diseases that are common in when we engage in more than 5 hours of sitting per day. And these chronic diseases include things like heart disease, obesity, diabetes, and again, independent of how much moderate to vigorous physical activity we do, sitting for 5 hours or more at a time can still be hazardous to our health. And so, Anna, I wanted to pause here and see what you think. Would it be wise to take questions in the middle? Do you usually save them for the end?
Sure. I mean, if any of our viewers have questions now, I have been, what's the word I'm looking for? Simultaneously, there we go, taking notes and also kind of keeping an eye on chat because everything is really kind of interesting. So,
well, we have a few questions coming in. We did get a couple of donations. Sure. I'm happy to read off while they're coming in.
Awesome.
We got a $50 donation from Squibs that says Lord British's tyranny must end. Thank you, Squibs. And another one from Moko Michi USA for $10. It says, good luck, have fun.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and actually, so we do have a question here. So do you have any recommendations for those who are frequently sitting in any position?
Certainly, and that's definitely part of what I wanted to share with you all today. And you can jump right to that section. So our bodies thrive when they are moved through multiple postures per day. And so my recommendation would be to take both small and large posture breaks throughout the day. And so what I mean by that is a small break refers to something you can do just by moving your limbs. So your arms, your legs, just to increase blood flow. So you might stretch your hands, you might stretch your legs, and you can still be seated for these activities. And so my recommendation would be to take these small breaks every 10 to 20 minutes. When I say a large posture break, what I mean by that is changing your posture entirely from a sitting position. So that means like getting up, maybe walking around, doing a lunge or two. If you're going to get a snack or a glass of water, maybe lunge your way to the refrigerator. I recommend a large break like that every 30 minutes. In fact, I know for myself, like I can forget to get up if I'm in the heat of an activity. There's an app if you all are interested in joining or installing rather. It's called Encourage. Move More, Encourage:*Move More. And it's an app that was developed by some experts at the University of Manitoba. to support individuals in reducing their sedentary time and becoming more active. And so I believe this app also sends you an alarm. And so it'll send you the alarm, and it'll also recommend an activity for you. So it might recommend you do squats or jumping jacks, or it works for folks who have sort of like 9 to 5 positions too, like fill your printer with paper. So that would involve you getting up. It might suggest stretching activities like a neck stretch or standing if you're able to stand and do your work at the same time. So those would be my recommendations to answer your question.
That's really interesting. I know that at work I tend to use, while I'm working, because I have having ADHD, I have like a really either I'm focused on 60 things at once, or I'm focused on one thing and only that one thing. So if I'm focused on a high intensive focus activity, then I tend to use a Pomodoro timer that has sound built in. So not only does it has some ambient sound built in, so not only does it kind of keep me mindful, because I'll kind of come back to that sound every now and then and go like, what's that sound? Oh yeah, I've got this Pomodoro timer running, but it also reminds me to stop and stand up every 20 minutes, because otherwise I'm going to be focused on doing that one thing for a really long time.
That's an excellent idea, that you've already have a timer to kind of snap yourself out of these long periods of engagement that could ultimately lead to pain or strain.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. I don't see any other questions at the moment. So what else do you have for us, Pooja? What else I know you had a lot of things that you had prepared for us. Was there anything that we can kind of segue into from here?
Certainly. So I spoke earlier about the path of sedentary behavior sort of leading to chronic disease in the long run. And I wanted to share some of how that works. I know for me, when I know how something works, that can sometimes be motivating in order to change my behavior. And so heart disease is unfortunately very common. It's in fact the most common cause of mortality in the world. And one way in which sedentary behavior can contribute to heart disease is through muscular inactivity. So of course we're sitting, we're not really activating our muscles beyond just those required to counteract gravity. And so through muscular inactivity, we suppress an enzyme associated with fat uptake, and that enzyme can contribute to the thickness of our artery walls. And so we find ourselves, higher cholesterol, higher blood pressure, and that's sort of how that can contribute to the onset of heart disease later on. This might be a no-brainer. We are, as it relates to obesity, the development of obesity, we're more likely to gain weight if we don't expend energy. And then lastly, diabetes is another very common metabolic condition in our world, our population, and sedentary time happens to be associated with insulin sensitivity, and that's a feature of type 2 diabetes. And so less muscle contraction also means there's less glucose uptake by our muscle cells, again, contributing to the type 2 diabetes.
Very interesting. Thank you. We did just get a question in chat. So
Sure.
Are standing desks good, or is standing for a long period of time just as bad as sitting for a long period of time?
I haven't read any research on excessive standing. That doesn't seem to be a problem that our society has. And so in general, I would say, yes, standing desks are good. I know one of my colleagues, she even set up a standing desk over a treadmill. And so
That's really smart.
you want to go that extra mile and mount your desk over a treadmill, and you could engage in some walking, some light walking while you're maybe working on your computer.
That's, yeah, you can get a desk treadmill. That's really going the extra mile, literally.
Right? I hear they're expensive, like in the upper hundreds of dollars, maybe even in the thousands. And if you just buy a separate treadmill, separate standing desk, you can build one yourself.
Or even like you just have like a standing desk and you get one of those. Oh man, these were popular way back in the day. Maybe I'm too old. There were like these like little discs you put on the ground where you can just kind of turn on it. You know what I'm talking about?
So you stand on these turning discs. I'm intrigued.
I have one.
Oh, I'm so excited. Please show us.
Let me find where it is first. There it is. Oh boy. Okay, so basically it just goes on the floor. It's just like it just sits on the floor. It looks like a record, honestly. And then you just like stand on it and the top turns.
何か出てきましたね。
So
足で踏んで、
maintain your balance and you can move
腰
while
を
you're
ひ
at
ね
your
っ
desk.
て、ウエストを刺激して、足つぼも刺激かな。
Another idea that's coming to mind is I've seen folks use like a pedaler under their desk. So you're
yeah,
pedaling.
that's
で
interesting. Or
視聴者の皆さんもやったことあ
for
る
all of you
方
who play,
いらっしゃるんじゃないか
ring
なと思い
fits,
ま
you
す。
can get some extra kind of reps in, like have it between your legs and just doing like the little
出たー。
presses, or just even while you're sitting, just kind of
こちらの方もやったことある方はもちろんいらっしゃるんじゃないかなと思い
In
ま
fact,
すね。
this is a great segue actually. I wanted to share some movement-based games that might be interesting to our audience. Ring Fit was one of them.
あでもね、そういう器具を使う
It's
エクサ
available
サ
on
イズ。
Nintendo Switch, and for those of you who aren't familiar, it's a fitness-themed role-playing game. So you team up with like a sentient Pilates ring to track down and defeat an evil bodybuilding dragon. And you use a ring con. Anna's laughing.
I'm sorry, I just love the way you I'm sorry, I love the way you just describe it, the sentient Pilates ring and the bodybuilding dragon. Oh, I love it. I'm sorry, continue.
I'm very interested in trying this game. I was doing a bunch of research before speaking.
Yeah, I can confirm that it is. You think you're like, oh, it's just a game, like it's not going to be that engaging. Ring Fit is really difficult. It is. I literally break a sweat playing it, to the point that like in the winter, I'm not someone who heavily sweats a whole lot, but I like to when I'm exercising for the purpose of exercising, right? I like to be able to kind of sweat a little bit. So I actually got like a sweatsuit, like it is like one of those kind of like sauna bodysuits, so that in the winter when it is much cooler, that I can break a sweat while doing the Ring Fit. And it is very easy on some levels and more difficult on others, but there are a lot of really interesting exercises that are built in. Like you can once you unlock a lot of exercises, you can focus on core things, like you can do like core or legs or like arms and stuff, and then even the game itself also has you focus on some of these at different points in the time through like the storyline. So it is, I can highly recommend it. It's very fun, Pooja.
I'm all the more interested in trying this game.
It's really fun. I really recommend it.
It's like, from what I've read, you perform strength exercises as you like fight enemies. You row through rivers. You're ziplining through the sky.
Yep.
So
yeah, it's really cool.
I'm intrigued. I'm so excited to try.
What other games do you have for us that you can recommend?
Yeah, so I found Fitness Boxing 2, also available on Nintendo Switch. It's a rhythm game that doubles as like a fitness video game. So you'll be twisting and punching along to the beat of modern pop songs. There's Just Dance, which is also available on Nintendo Switch. Yeah, do you know that one, Anna?
Yeah, I do.
Nintendo Switch, PS5, PS4, Xbox Series XS, Xbox One. This one also hit songs. You follow choreography to these songs. So it can be a fun way to burn calories, break a sweat, improve flexibility. And then, of course, there are several virtual reality-based games, which is, it makes sense, right, that those would involve movement. One popular game that I also really want to try is Beat Saber. Beat Saber. In fact, Dr. B from Take This introduced this game to me. Color.
I bet Dr. B makes it sound really super fun too.
Hi, lovely friends. This is Natara. The audience can hear me. I have Beat Saber, and it is amazing. It really, really brings up a sweat. It is mostly VR, so you have to be able to afford that setup. But there's a huge modding community, so you can add your own music to it as well, and it's just wild. And because the things look like lightsabers, there's that added nerdy effect, because you're just kind of like, boom, 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 I'm ducking and moving. It's excellent. Highly recommend.
It's so good. It's also available on more budget platforms like the Oculus Quest and stuff like that, so you don't have to have a high-end setup for it.
Yeah.
That actually... And, speaking of kind of moving in VR type games and, rhythm games, and of course we have a rhythm game block later in the marathon tomorrow night, but I was thinking of multiple, I've never really seen these in the United States so much, unless you actually have the money to buy the physical arcade machine. But there are tons of rhythm games in Japan. If you go to the arcade, you can see they have one where you mostly just use your hands, but they have some other ones where it's someone's mentioning Dance Dance Revolution, where you have 4 arrows basically, and you dance as it were on those. But there are some other ones where they are you get to move on I'm just remembering there was this big track. I'd have to find a picture of it. There was this big track, and then there's a bunch of movements you can do, but they also have ones that are big circle panels where you're moving your entire upper body basically to catch up with what's going on in the rhythm game. So that's really cool.
Wow, so you're really engaging all different kinds of muscles.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, so for those of you who aren't familiar with Beat Saber, I'll just complete that circle. You'll have color blocks fly towards you, and then you swipe at them with lightsabers. And so the better you get at this game, the more intense your workout becomes. Anna, I wanted to ask you, what have you noticed? What have you learned about your body, about your health? Have you noticed anything change as you spend more time sitting, or is that something that
そうですね。改めて今行っている Take This パネルというのが何なのかをちょっと説明しますね。Take This というのが、今回の、ミラー配信させていただいているスピードララグダルク2021のイベントの寄付先となっておりますのが Take This ですね。ゲームコミュニティにおけるメンタルヘルスに関する意識向上、教育、奉仕活動を目的とした非営利の慈善団体です。そして今行っている Take This パネルというのは、運動とメンタルヘルスに関する、内容のお話をしていただいております。メンタルヘルスというのが、精神ですね。そういうものがどのように運動がつながっているのか、そういうのを話していただいています。この内容につきましてはね、後々、あちら側の本家のスタッフさんの方からですね、重要なポイントの方をディスコードでいただく予定になっております。そちらの方またお届けできたらと思っております。よろしくお願いいたします。
And I've also noticed that it's really easy to just kind of stay here and not, move away or anything. And this really ties into a lot of other things other than just, you know, exercise and, you know, my physical health and mental health. But, you know, it's, well, mostly mental health, but like when you are just sitting here and you don't take that time to disconnect from, like, even if you work from your computer, to get up and like create a commuting style or something, like it can actually lead to like bigger problems like burnout and things where you don't disconnect from work ever because your body and your mind have not disconnected. So then you kind of stay in that mindset even while you're like, okay, I've signed off of the work account or whatever, and now I'm at my computer, but you haven't actually done anything to tell your mind and your body, oh, we're not at work anymore. So this is something that I've actually been personally dealing with a lot lately, where as my role as a manager gets more difficult, I need to create those boundaries between work and my personal life, where I'm like, okay, work has ended. I am going to go for a walk. And this has been something that I've been, you know, trying to do more, especially with rediscovering things like Pokemon Go. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's not like in and of itself, it's not a physical game, but it is.
ポケモン GO の名前が出てきましたね。
Kind of gives
確
me a
かに
reason to
運
leave
動
the
と
house, as it were.
メンタルヘルス、
Totally. That's
ゲー
actually
マー
another
の
one
健
I
康っ
wanted
ていう
to
ところ
recommend.
に
Of course,
すごい
Pokemon Go.
つながってく
We
る
need
タ
to
イト
get
ルです
out
よね。
and move our bodies in order to seek these Pokemon.
Yeah.
Oh yes, please go ahead.
Go ahead.
You go ahead.
No. You were gonna pick up on something I think I said, so go ahead.
I wanted to kind of highlight one point that you mentioned, or emphasize it at least, that as your lifestyle changed, it's like sitting, of course, it was became a part of your job. It was accessible, it was available, you know, you're not running around, that there was no stimulus of like, okay, I need to chase these children anymore. Like, that wasn't there. And I wanted to kind of analogize or compare that with how accessible and available sedentary behavior is to us, like in general. Like, of course, you know, for playing games, many of those involve like sitting in one place, but also, you know, like dishwashers, cars, physical activity requires us to engage in and is often accompanied by like modest discomfort, like sweating, and sometimes the added cost of like changing clothes, showering, and so on. There's a cost before we even engage in the physical activity, and so it would just be interesting to see, to evaluate sort of our changes in like TV watching or gaming behavior if we had to change our clothes and shower after every episode of our favorite show, or, you know, after finishing each game or each level.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, too, like, you know, like I used to work in a movie theater. Whew, those shoes only got worn at work because movie theater butter is interesting. It's like butter flavored oil or something. I'm not sure.
Oh wow!
But it doesn't wash out of the shoes, so those shoes smelled like old oil, old popcorn butter oils. So I couldn't wear them anywhere. So yeah, it's interesting to think about. Like, you know, like, yeah, I stood a lot in that job, but you know, there's definitely that extra cost of like having to, like, when you have a job that's physical and working and stuff.
Right, like you were already like wearing those shoes, you were already prepared to be walking. I'll also say that the reinforcement value for sitting, like, it's very high, right? Games are fun, like, why wouldn't we play them? And so I wanted, because we know this about like the cost involved in physical activity and how accessible sitting is and how much enjoyment we can get out of these activities, I wanted to flip that argument and you know, if I could encourage you all to reflect in your own lives and think about how you can make exercise or even movement like more available, more accessible, and more fun for yourselves, because you're more likely to engage in a stretch or a physical activity if you know that it's easy to do and that you enjoy it.
Yeah, I think too, like, if you're like cost, you know, driven, for example, knowing that spending that extra money washing your clothes and taking that extra shower is going to probably be less than paying for the medical costs that the health, like the heart disease or diabetes could cost for you in the future. Is if you want to think like completely about money, like that's one way where you can be like, okay, yeah, like in the future, like this cost now is going to be way less than that cost later. But yeah, that's been something that's been a little bit more difficult to me. But I think one way that I have really kind of felt rewarded in doing so, in like, you know, just taking a walk or something, is of course, you know, playing Pokemon Go is one thing where I can definitely, like, I have like a real, like, kind of counter for like how much I've done and like have the reward of having even more Pokemon or Pokestops spend. But something that I've been trying to do is a little bit more esoteric, like, you know, rewarding myself by just telling myself that I did a good job, that I did, you know, that I accomplished something, that that in and of itself is a good reward, because I think we spend a lot of time kind of beating ourselves up a little bit where we don't reward ourselves for doing something that we think we should, for example. Instead, we'll guilt ourselves and, you know, play video games all day and be like, oh, look what I've done. I have wasted all of my day and didn't do anything. But we don't, on the flip side, reward ourselves when we go outside. So, you know, go outside, take a walk, and just, you know, even if it's silent to yourself, go, yeah, I went for a really long walk today. I did a good job.
Absolutely. Let's not underestimate those small victories. Acknowledging them can, like, of course, boost our confidence and our self-esteem and our willingness to engage in that activity again. So it's very easy for us to, like you said, like be on autopilot and just kind of go through the motions of our lives. And if we don't take some time to reflect on, but like taking that walk, like that was, you know, I did that for myself. I did that for my health. And it's worth recognizing so that you engage in that activity again.
So I was going to ask you earlier, Pooja, what what do you do to kind of get yourself out of that autopilot and, you know, keep yourself physically engaged in just anything, basically, I guess?
Totally. So some practices that I engage in, and so it, you know, I don't have a timer. However, I'm really interested in keeping one, Anna, especially after hearing about yours. I do my best to like keep an eye on the time, and as well as my calendar is like built with like 1 hour chunks of activity. And so after those activities, I'll get up, I'll walk around my office, come back to the computer, and on weekdays I will I'll take a lunch break. And my lunch break involves like a, you know, walking outside the campus of the hospital in which I work.
Oh, that's really
so
nice.
make time to do that. And then in the evenings, if I'm feeling extra tired, I might just do some light stretching or yoga. There's several videos on YouTube. 20 minutes, especially as I build this habit. Now that I've started a new job, as I build this habit, 20 minutes feels like an attainable number for me. I started with thinking about 30, and then I feel so exhausted. 30 minutes seemed like such like a long time. And so when I reduced the time to 20 minutes, like I'm just gonna engage in 20 minutes of activity. If I can, I will go running for 20 minutes or do like a strength-based workout like in my bedroom. Or if I'm extra tired, I'll just do yoga. And just 20 minutes.
Oh, sorry, I was thinking about like, is there anything that you do like when you're like just feeling like super tired and you're like, I don't have energy for yoga or a jog? Like, what would you do that would kind of like help you both kind of relax a little bit, but also get that physical activity in?
I'm super tired. I mean, if we're talking about like physical and mental exhaustion, like I can equate that to being super tired. I will engage in like a mindfulness exercise, which isn't it isn't really a physical activity because I'm sitting or, like lying down in one spot. I'll engage in a mindfulness exercise, and I can recommend the Waking Up app, for example. Has several guided mindfulness exercises, especially if you're a beginner to the practice of mindfulness. There's a 30-day beginner's exercise, and they're about 5 to 10 minutes each. And like I said, they're guided, so you won't be alone with your thoughts the whole time. You'll know what to do for that duration of time.
Yeah. It's really interesting. Something that I've noticed too that I've been able to do with myself, like it's like pseudo being lazy while doing what I'm supposed to. I am going to the doctor for some physical therapy. It's very kind of proactive because I have, like, I guess weak knees, so they can get achy very easily, and I have been given a set of exercises that I can conveniently do while holding my smartphone. So I will do those exercises basically. So they're basically just leg exercises, right? So if you wanted to move into like anything other than just leg and hip exercises, you would probably need to let go of your phone. But I am able to facilitate myself by like being able to kind of multitask because come on, cat. Because I have the phone in one hand and I'm doing my game, but I'm also kind of doing the exercises as well. It's a very convenient way to be pseudo lazy and on my phone while also doing what I'm supposed to, as it were.
Well, that's excellent. You've really made it accessible for yourself to engage in activity. It's not an added burden or added activity. You're already on your phone, and you have to be moving your legs.
Yeah, and I usually do it like right before bed, so I get the added bonus of feeling a little exhausted when I go to sleep.
That's
easier to fall asleep.
Totally, exercise does improve our sleep quality. We spent a lot of time talking about the physical benefits and, of course, changing our behavior to make exercise or movement just more a part of our days. I wanted to just spend a few minutes talking about how exercise also activates our endorphin endocannabinoid activity to reduce.
That's a big word.
Endocannabinoid. So we have these like endogenous or like internal to our bodies chemicals, cannabinoids, which might, resembles the word cannabis, if any of you are familiar with that plant. And so we have these internal chemicals that simulate the effect of like cannabis, but they're within us. And so exercise will actually activate that endocannabinoid, or like those chemicals within our bodies, that activity, and that reduces our sensitivity to pain. And so we produce this all by ourselves without any substance. And then exercise can also raise our serotonin levels, and this can give us a general sense of well-being and combat feelings of depression. In fact, some studies have even shown that the effects of exercise are equivalent or even better to those of antidepressant medications. And then lastly, I'll say that exercise provides opportunities for social connection and achievement. And so whether that be exercising in person in the company of others, or maybe you have a buddy who you're competitive with when it comes to exercise, or even if you're playing games, an exercise-based game with other players. These are the opportunities that promote social
それで
connection,
はここ
promote
でもう一
achievement,
度
and
今
that
行わ
has
れている
beneficial
Take
effects for
This
our
パネル
mental
につい
health.
ての
Gives us a
説明
sense
を
of
させてい
well-being.
ただきますね。そもそも Take This パネルの Take This というのがですね、今回の日本語ミラー配信させていただいているスピードランラグナーク2021のイベントの寄付先となっている、ゲームコミュニティにおけるメンタルヘルスに関する意識向上、教育奉仕活動を目的とした非営利の慈善団体。それが Take This です。 で、その Take This パネルということで、そちらの活動だったり、についての説明をしていただいている感じですね。メンタルヘルス、精神の管理はどんなように運動とつながっているのか、ゲーマーにとって運動はどんなものなのか、みたいなことについてお話しされている感じかなというふうに思います。詳しいことについては、またもうしばらくしたら解説をこちらでできるかなというふうに思います。よろしくお願いいたします。そしてですね、先ほどチャット欄の方でご質問いただいておりました、ビットボンズについてですね、そちらの方の詳細についての URL をナイトボットで流させていただこうと思っております。ちょっと調整にもう少しお時間いただきますけれども、そちらは、よろしくお願いいたします。以上です。はい。
So especially for those of you who are, getting older, I know this is going to come as a surprise to you, but actually this week, I'm not telling you when, I turned 34. So, for those of you who did know how old I am, it's just like, oh, for those of you who thought I was in my 20s, joke's on you. I'm not. I get that a lot, but it's as simple as starting it and, finding something that, you both enjoy, you can find sustainable, and that, kind of gives you that reward that you feel like you need. So you don't need to kind of gateway yourself with starting exercise. Just deciding, like I said, to for me, playing Pokemon Go was something that really kind of facilitates me getting outside. So having that is, if you have a smartphone that does that, is basically, free. But if you don't have a smartphone that plays Pokemon Go, you can, do other things, like listen to music as you walk around a little bit. If you're into audiobooks, download some audiobooks and listen to those 20-30 minutes as you walk around. Or it can be as simple as, walking around just your own backyard if you have one, or just around the block, where you start small and then you grow from there. Maybe you don't really like walking. You can do something start up one of those games we were talking about, or even yoga. There are tons of resources online on YouTube for yoga, as Pooja was mentioning as well, and I can get her to share some of her resources. But that's also free. You don't need a yoga mat. You don't need all of the blocks or anything. You can start for free, and if you find something you like, then that's when you start spending money on lifestyle changes and stuff. Maybe not a whole lot of people know this, but I was really into boxing for a while, and after I moved home from Japan, obviously the gym I was going to is now a little bit too far away, but I ended up it was basically my entry fee to the gym was when I got my boxing gloves, they gave those to me for basically free, as it were. So that was something that I really, really enjoyed and wish I could get back into. Just, for example. It's not easy to start, but when you get good and you complete something big, it feels good. I just ran Broad Street 10 miler yesterday. Wow, that's really amazing. Good job. People are talking about my cat. Wireless earbuds for investments for some people. Those are really good, because if you want to, walk around or do some exercise, or just have I don't know, if you have a Chromecast where you're listening and don't want to disrupt the household. Yeah. Awesome. Sorry, so I just wanted to read you some of the comments that were in there.
Yeah, thank you. For those of you who may not have a particular exercise routine or movement routine, that's okay. I would encourage you to experiment with activities that you'd like to try, or that maybe you once have tried before and you enjoyed. Whether that is, as simple as walking outside your neighborhood in nature. Even several videos on YouTube available for yoga and other types of workouts that you'd like to try. One of my favorite workout websites is hasfit.com, HASFIT.com. And all the workouts on those websites are available without charge. And there's so many different kinds of workouts you can engage in, whether that, if you're looking for low impact, you're looking for chair exercises, high intensity exercises, strength-based. Maybe you've injured yourself and you'd like some rehabilitation. They've got a library of different workouts to choose from for essentially any level.
Wow. Yeah, that's really awesome. Thank you so much, Pooja. And hopefully, if anybody has any questions, now's the time to ask, or we're going to let Pooja get back to her day. Okay, thank you. And in the meantime, say hi to my cat.
Wow, so cute.
かわいい猫ちゃんですね。
All right. Well, I'm not seeing any particular questions or anything. Would you like to add anything before we go, Pooja?
I'm just really grateful for this chance to speak to you all, and thank you for supporting Take This, and I wish you all good health.
Thank you, Pooja. Thank you so much. And everybody congratulate Pooja on her first panel. We were the experiment, so next time I hope you go into your next panel feeling really confident now that you've experimented and had your first try with us.
Oh, I'm so glad it was with you all. This has been so enjoyable. You all are so friendly.
Thank you. And
Getting a lot of love in chat. We all appreciate it.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
all right, everyone. Well, Dave can tell us what's coming up next.
Yes, thank you so much. All right, we will be back shortly with Batman Arkham City with 30...
はい。画面が切り替わりました。というわけで、Take This パネルでした。こちらの詳しい情報はまた、後ほどお伝えできればいいなというふうに考えておりますので、お楽しみに。まあね、視聴者の皆さんも座りっぱなしはやめて、たまには立ち上がったり、首をぐるぐる動かしたり、そういうところからね、まあ始めてみてくださいね。それでは、続いてのタイトルの準備に移らせていただきます。少々お待ちください。